Let's create layers of meaning in our Bible journaling. Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I am doing some Bible journaling and we're going to play with texture. So I have some fun mixed media tools picked out. I have a stencil. We're going to go for it. And this week I am journaling in the book of Judges, specifically Judges 15, towards the end of that chapter. Can't wait to dive into it with you. So as always, I will link all of the supplies that I use down in the description box below. Otherwise, let's go. Creating in layers and texture is one of my favorite ways to work in my Bible journal because I feel like it is so representative of the layers of meaning that we can find in scripture. And I have found that as I'm reading the Bible over and over again, studying the same passages in different years or different seasons of life, how I kind of uncover some different meanings. This section of Judges is about Samson. It is in kind of the middle of his story where he is battling the Philistines. And after a victory, he cries out to God about being thirsty and crying out to God about, I've done this great thing. Won't you satisfy my thirst? And to me, it's amazing how God meets us where we are and satisfies our needs on so many levels. So in the Old Testament, he tends to satisfy a lot of physical needs. And then in the New Testament, with the coming of Jesus, those same acts turn into satisfying a spiritual need because, of course, Jesus talks about being the living water and satisfying thirst, but that is in a different way than what Samson is crying out for. So this is the spiritual water that I wanted to focus on for this entry because, of course, God was going to satisfy Samson in his thirst, but this thirst that we have will also be satisfied later in the Bible in a different way. So this is kind of a foreshadowing. I've been playing with all of the blues because, of course, they are indicative of water. I started out with some distress inks in the background. Those are distress oxide inks. And then I did one through a stencil that kind of gave me the feeling of a wave. That's what we're going for here. And then, of course, I have this stencil that has all these raindrops. They're rather close together. It's not my favorite because they're so close together, but I liked the idea of these raindrops. And for the raindrops, I'm actually using texture paste, which I love as a texture technique in a Bible because it adds some texture without adding a ton of dimensionality. It's not going to make it super thick in the end. The other cool thing about texture paste is that you can mix it with any other wet medium. So I was able to mix it with some of the Distress Oxide ink so that it would blend together because we're kind of doing a monotone type feel with this spread all in the blues. All right, so I added some water and dried it off screen. I wanted to activate the Distress Oxide, but it wasn't quite enough. I needed more of a water feel on this page. So these are metallic watercolors, and I'm putting them just here at the top. This gets a little messy. I'm gonna do nice and thick watercolor here at the top. Then I'm going to bring my spray bottle in and begin spraying it so that it rains down the page. That was the goal, but I had to move it off screen right away because it was like dripping all over the place. Before I dry it completely, I am going to add a few splatters because you can't be representative of water without splatters. That takes a hot second to dry, and now I'm ready to continue to add. So there were multiple layers that built up this feeling, and what I love about the look of it is I can see the layers. I think they show up a little bit better in person than they do on the camera. Plus, the more layers, while subtle, just give me more time to reflect on the verse and on the connection between the Old Testament and the New Testament, because oftentimes that is a connection that I have missed in the past. This is a stamp from By the Well for God. I love the line drawing look of it, of this person just kind of looking and reaching up and looking up for some satisfaction, for some thirst quenching in multiple ways. To give her a little bit more, I don't know, definition, I am going to come in with some Distress Oxide ink. I just put it right down on my cutting board right here and then activate it with water. Just add a tiny little bit of shadowing and fill her in a little bit more. It's not a lot. And like I said, it's kind of subtle. The things I'm going for in this particular spread tend to be subtle because I really wanted the focus to be on the color and on the feel of the water. All right, once I finish with that, then once again, I'm taking this over to dry it all of the way. When you're working with multiple layers, especially wet mediums and mixed media, you want to dry between each layer. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'm bringing this back and using some alpha stickers from Keleva Plan. This is the original Alpha Basics. And I'm going to put together the title that says, "He Will Satisfy." And I'm going to connect the verse references up in chapter 15 of Judges to what I noticed in my own journaling time. And what I wrote in the end, once I get all of these stickers in place, is I ended up writing what God does physically in the Old Testament, He does spiritually in the New Testament. My hope is that by taking time to journal this connection, it will really open my eyes to seeing that connection pop up in more places. All right, once the journaling is done, that is going to be it for this Bible journal entry. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. Just like always, I will link the supplies that I used down in the description box below, so be sure to check those out. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Patreon is a wonderful place where you can not only support your favorite creatives, but you can connect to a community of people that share your same interests and hobbies and passions, and it's just a fun place to be. So if you are interested in finding out more about Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/ScrappyWife. All right. I hope that you have an absolutely fabulous day. And as always, keep it creative.